Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday, presented by the University of Arizona Health Sciences. I'm Caroline Berger, Director of Corporate and Community Relations for the University of Arizona Health Sciences in Phoenix. And I'd like to introduce you to our new team, led by Allison Otu, our Executive Director, and Anne-Marie Medina, based in Tucson, who is also Director of Corporate and Community Relations. We are very proud to present Wellness Wednesdays to you to help give you some healthy and well information that we hope you will enjoy for yourself and for your family. A little bit about the University of Arizona Health Sciences, if you haven't joined us before. We are the statewide leader in biomedical research and health professions training. Health sciences includes the colleges of medicine, both in Tucson and Phoenix, nursing, pharmacy, along with the Mel and Enid Zuckerman College of Public Health. We have our main campus locations in Tucson and the growing Phoenix Biomedical Campus in downtown Phoenix. As you can imagine, health sciences reaches across the state of Arizona and the greater Southwest to provide cutting-edge health education, research, and community outreach services. We are a major economic engine here in Arizona with nearly 5,000 people, including close to 4,000 students, 900 faculty, and we earn close to $200 million in research grants and contracts. We are led by Dr. Michael Dake, who's our Senior Vice President for Health Sciences. And as I mentioned, we talk about community services. And for many of you may not be aware, this month is Alzheimer's Awareness Month. And as part of that, we're offering 4 free virtual happy hour events to promote Alzheimer's awareness. The first 3 events will focus on how food, exercise, and music affect our brain. And the 4th event will deliver all that information in Spanish. Produced as part of the Mind Crowd Healthy Aging Together pilot study, the research project will investigate the biological, social, cultural, and behavioral that affect the process of cognitive aging. This was created by the team at the University of Arizona in collaboration with researchers at TGen, the University of Miami, Arizona State University, and Johns Hopkins University. The first session will be presented tomorrow at 4 p.m. and will feature nutrition and your brain. Here's the link for registration and more information, but not to worry. We will include that in a post-session email that you will receive after today's presentation. I also want to encourage you to mark your calendars. We have 2 exciting new virtual events that are coming up very soon. The first is June 23rd from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. and will include a virtual open house and updates from our University of Arizona Health Sciences Phoenix campus. And then on June 30th from 4 to 5 p.m., a live virtual tour and open house from the University of Health Sciences in Tucson as well. Be sure to check up all information and stay attuned with us. Visit us at uahs.arizona.edu. And please, I invite you to follow me at my Twitter handler at CEBerger for more information as well. This is an interactive session today, so we invite you to leave a question in the chat, all of your questions and any recommendations that you may have. Again, as I mentioned, we'll be sending out a post-session email with a brief evaluation that we'd ask you to complete. We'd love to hear your recommendations and ideas for more Wellness Wednesday programs going forward. You'll also receive links to all the resources and recommendations presented today, as well as a recording of today's session that we encourage you to share with your family and friends. So now I'd like to introduce you to today's presenter, Dr. Lisa Kiser, Clinical Assistant Professor at the Biobehavioral Health Sciences College of Nursing. Dr. Kiser, a certified nurse-midwife and women's health nurse practitioner, will discuss the role of prebiotics and probiotics in promoting a healthy microbiome and how this contributes to overall health and wellness. A native of Tucson, Arizona, she has participated in the natural foods movement for over 35 years. Join me in welcoming Dr. Lisa Kiser.
Hi, everybody. Give me a second and I'm going to get my slide going here. I have been teaching at the College of Nursing for over 10 years now, and it still is an adjustment for me to teach online, although I have come to really appreciate that there are ways that we can connect. So I appreciate your attending this, and my hope is that I get to share with you some of my work. I think it's very helpful that I can come and talk to you, not just from a research perspective, but as a clinician about my work as a healthcare provider and how I see that we partner together in that work. I know you're coming from many different backgrounds and perspectives. My hope is that we can make this as interactive as possible, and that at the end that I will welcome your questions. So I think one of the things that works with Zoom that we are seeing is this idea that we can look into each other's lives and get a perspective around health and wellness from each of our own individual perspectives. So I wanted to start here because I recently had a procedure, and a friend of mine, her son that I was actually at part of his birth, he just got married. He's 22 years old, and he married a lovely young woman from Korea. And when she knew I was going to be having this procedure, she made me this homemade kimchi, which I'm showing in the picture. And she just sent me this lovely note. Hi, Lisa. I hope you like this Korean kimchi. Its numerous healthy microorganisms will boost your immune system and fight inflammation and many more. And then just all of this lovely cultural sharing of this is how we use this food in Korea, and the love that you feel. And so when we talk about healthcare and anything that we're talking about, when we come from a nursing perspective, we're always talking about it from a perspective of how does healthcare connect us to each other, and how does healthcare connect us to our providers. And my hope is with this talk as well, we're going to be talking about how does healthcare, and specifically probiotics and the microbiome, give you a sense of connectedness to the earth. And this opportunity to feel connected in ways that promote your wellness, that is a positive thing during a time when we're really challenged on multiple levels by a lot of stressful things in our environment. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit more. I wish I could see you all. The nice thing is when I lecture online with my students, I actually ask them to put their images up so I can see you. But I'm going to ask you to join me for a minute and just make your hands into this shape with me. And I'm going to ask Caroline to do it with me because she's the one face that I can see right now. And so when we're talking about evidence-based practice to evidence-informed wellness, and just keep your fingers here for a minute because I want you to feel in your body this idea that what we've called evidence-based practice has really been only one of the three legs of evidence-based wellness or healthcare. We tend to think of evidence-based practice as research, what it is that the research is telling us to do. When I have my students with me, I ask them, what are the other two legs? And it's often that they can get the second leg, which is the second leg is the provider. But you all, we all are the third leg, that we in our own bodies as a patient or as somebody who's promoting, and you can put your fingers down now, as someone who's promoting our own wellness in this world, what I want you to see when you see the triangle is that when we truly teach evidence-informed healthcare and wellness, that there is an equality here. And so I come to you as a clinician. I certainly became interested in this topic way before I even became a nurse, but even more so when I became a nurse and a healthcare provider. So I come to you as a clinician, and I love sharing with you what it is that I am seeing in the clinical setting. I come to you as a patient, as someone who enters into the healthcare system myself and sees its strengths and sees its weaknesses. And I especially come to you with someone, because of my work, both as a clinician and as a professor, with someone who really has a love and appreciation of research and science. But I think that this idea of balance is an excellent place to start, because it lets us know that we are in conversation and no one voice is stronger than the other. So when we talk about food, one of the things I really wanted to talk about in this presentation is this idea that we are a living microbiome, that we have our own cells and we have all of these other cells that are living in us, and I'm going to get to that in the next slide in a minute. But I really came to the idea of presenting this slide partly because of my 30 years in the natural foods movement, where it was such a radical thing to even see that the food pyramid was changed. I can't even tell you what a happy day that was for me, to really see that the federal government came out and said that half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables, every single meal. There are a lot of powerful industries in our country, especially around food production and food consumption. And so it's hard to even describe what a radical shift this was. And so I also wanted to show you a picture of what my plate actually looks like. This was a recent meal we had in our home. And my hope is that in talking to you about it from a personal perspective, you can see that it is possible to take the research and transform it in your own life. That it's not this absolute or standard that you have to meet. I think that this idea that we do this in incremental steps is very critical. But in my work as a nurse practitioner and a nurse midwife, when we look at the research, we know that we are not focusing enough on educating ourselves and our students around nutrition and what that means for our overall wellness. We certainly aren't doing enough work in terms of educating consumers and our patients around what it means. And so I really love this idea of Fertilize Yourself, because my daughter came home in the midst of COVID. She's my adult daughter, and she looked at all of our plants that we've had for 20 years, and she's like, Mom, you really have got to do something. The soil is depleted, and you really have not taken the time to repot and nourish these plants. And she did a fabulous job, came right in, started doing this. And so this idea that we have these microorganisms in our body, and that what we eat feeds them as well as it feeds us, and that by doing this, we can improve our health and improve our immune system, is something I really wanted to start with, this conversation about the fact that food is wellness. And just like my poor plants, at some point, if you are not replenishing your microbiome on a daily basis, that really can negatively impact your health. So when I was invited to do a talk, and we were talking about multiple possible topics of what we can talk about, there really is this question of why talk about gut health now? And we know that it is a challenging time with the COVID. So part of me is going to get to that, because even after we determined that we were going to do this talk around the microbiome and gut health, there was just this expansion of research and evidence being done around the use of probiotics to address the COVID-19 crisis. That's going to be my last slide that I share with you. But our focus, our hope, was that we could provide information and have a conversation at all levels about the fact that this is a big deal. And one of the things that makes me happy when I'm teaching and working with my students is I really love to share the things that seem the most relevant and that most excite me. So why talk about gut health now is this idea that the more we do to keep ourselves well overall, the more it is that we're going to be able to prevent and treat multiple different kinds of illnesses, both chronic and acute. So here's just a small list of things that probiotics and prebiotics are being used for in terms of the prevention and the treatment of disease. And again, one of the things I really love about my work is this idea that I get to look at research on a daily and weekly basis. And even as I was putting the slides together for this presentation, there came out another article about this idea that preeclampsia, which is a hypertensive disorder of pregnancy, is also potentially related to your gut flora and the microorganisms in your body. But then you look at hypertension and mood disorders and mental wellness, weight maintenance, weight gain, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, chronic inflammation, cancer, your autoimmune response, your immune system's response, and the host, meaning us, our susceptibility to infection. There is just this large body of research and evidence that's been ongoing to say all of this really truly is related to our gut, and to not just our gut, but to the microorganisms that grow on us and in us throughout our body. So why this picture? I don't think healthcare makes sense, and I wish we had more opportunities as healthcare providers to talk about what does it mean to be a healthcare provider, and how do the stories of the people that we work with impact us and shape us and create us to be better providers and our own wisdom. So this is a picture of my friend Anne, and it almost breaks my heart to tell you that she recently died of ovarian cancer. And she had this amazing blog going for 2 years where she talked about what it meant to go through the treatment process with such a severe disease. And at one point she posted that she was taking over 40 supplements, at which point I wrote to her personally to say, can I be in conversation with you about this? Because I think one of the hardest things, I think one of the reasons people want to come in and talk about something like the microbiome is that it's hard to know where to get good information. And it's very critical to me in talking with all of you that I honor Anne and the work that we did together by sharing with you that this is based in research, and that I'm going to provide with you the resources that, some really good resources that I used, so that you can do the reading for yourself, and that you can objectively for yourself make the decision, would this be something that would be good for me to include in my diet, in whatever supplements I'm taking? Is this something I would be interested in teaching? Is this something I would be interested in researching? I think that this idea that one of the places that we have this symbiotic relationship is that we inform each other. And so I want you to know that this is informed and based in research, but also my personal experience and my experience as a coach. So when we talk about what is the human microbiome, one of the things that was most interesting is that they had the Human Microbiome Project where they were mapping out the human genome. And the surprise was that we had less gene sequencing than was anticipated when they first started the project. So they basically went out and started to look and say, where is the rest of the genome coming from? And what they found was that it came from what we're calling the human microbiome. All of the organisms, the microorganisms that live on us and in us. And what I love again about science and research is that it changes over time, and that to me is only fun. Because when they started coming out with this 10, 15 years ago when I first started teaching this, they said that we were 10 times more not us than us in terms of the microorganisms, the number of microorganisms, and the number of the human cells. And what we know now is it's more of a 50-50, that we're about 1.3 times more the microorganisms that are living on us and in us than we are our own human cells. And this is another amazing symbiotic relationship. This radical idea that who we are is based in large part, this other 50%, on the organisms that are living on us and in us. And I really want everyone to take away from this presentation, this conversation, that there is an extremely beneficial relationship. and that these microorganisms do everything from help us with vitamin K absorption, to helping to fight off pathogens, to helping to initiate our immune response. And you're just at this point maybe thinking, so why exactly is it that a nurse midwife and a women's health nurse practitioner got so excited about the human microbiome? And part of that came because they started to do research that showed one of the reasons, one of the key reasons that infants who are born by C-section have higher rates of infection and higher rates of things like asthma and type 1 diabetes is that they don't get colonized through the birth canal like babies do when they're born vaginally. I loved this idea that when babies are born, they're coming through the vaginal canal, that birth is a process, and it's meant to be a process because in that passage, you are colonized with the microbiomes from your mother and your grandmother and your great-grandmother. And this idea that we're carrying the legacy of generations, that we're literally, they use the word seeding, that we are seeding the human body, and that we are welcomed into planet Earth by these very microbiomes that are going to help promote our lifelong wellness. What a beautiful concept. So it got me super excited to do my work around this topic, and I have been working on it ever since. I also loved that, again, in 15 years, the language around what is the microbiome, what is probiotics, has continued to evolve. So this idea that you actually do have a second brain, they're talking about it, and that it's called the enteric nervous system, or the nervous system that comes from your gut, and that there's these 100 million nerve cell linings from your esophagus to your rectum, and that it communicates directly with the central nervous system. So now when you think about the phrase go with your gut, they literally are thinking that some of the mental health disorders may be coming from the GI system and not the brain. They know that the two are in ongoing communication. So I definitely wanted to share that idea with you about why is this so important. So when we talk about what are prebiotics and what are probiotics, so prebiotics are the things that are feeding the good bacteria and other microorganisms in our body. So we really do, your grandmother was right, you really do want to eat the food that is beneficial for feeding those microorganisms in your body. I wanted to mention in another slide that one of the reasons this is so critical that I want to help you focus on this is that because our food supply has become so industrialized and so processed that the vitamin and mineral and microbe content in our food is about 20 to 80% depleted compared to what it was even 30 years ago. So choosing our food carefully, eating a whole foods diet, and focusing on probiotics really can help improve your health and the health of those good microbiomes we're trying to keep going. So probiotics are those living microorganisms, when administered in adequate amounts, confer a health benefit on the host. I wanted to just give you that straightforward definition as well. So in terms of the history of human probiotic use, this is where I think, again, going back to the lovely young woman from Korea, we have to honor that there are traditional knowledge and wisdom in cultures, and that the use of fermented foods goes back for thousands of years, and that there is very clear evidence that the beneficial strains were known and they were passed on from generation to generation, just like a good sourdough starter is passed on from generation to generation. So science has definitely weighed in. Science is our friend on this, but science does not have the only word on this. In terms of what we know from human culture and human history about the use of foods that contain probiotics. When we talk about...
One more.
Okay. When we talk about where the evidence is, I have included a number of resources where there are databases and websites. I'm particularly impressed with the International Scientific Association for Probiotics and Prebiotics. There is a significant amount of research around the many multiple conditions where it's being used. I do want to get to my COVID-19 slide. So this just lets you know it can be done. I literally went to my fridge, pulled out the foods that I actually eat. There's no branding here. It just lets you know that there are multiple ways, and that food is the first way we encourage people to get probiotics in their diet. But food is not the only way, because there are certain conditions where differing strains matter. And I have a whole list of websites and supplements and ways and wheres you can go to decide if I want to go with supplements because I have a specific condition, what are the better strains to go with. And we get to the final end, which was truly the punchline for me, that I thought I would go online and there would be just a little bit of talk about the use of probiotics to help address COVID-19. And what really impressed me is that there are multiple studies about how probiotics can be used to colonize, a good colonization of the respiratory tract to help prevent COVID-19, the use of the lactobacilli to help create a vaccination, that if you have a good microbiome, it is a predictor of COVID-19 outcomes. So a lot to share in a very short period of time, and I'm going to end here and see what questions you have, and I really appreciate your joining today.
Thank you, Dr. Kiser. Such great information. We do have a couple questions. The first one is, my husband and I dislike soda and are still surprised how popular it is. Please comment on the prevalence of soda in our society.
Well, that's a whole conversation in itself, but it's certainly something that I address in the clinical setting. We know that in the 1970s, this is going to seem a strange answer, that when there was a surplus of corn under the Nixon administration, the corn subsidies led to a not healthy revolution in our entire food system, where there was a high emphasis on the production of corn. That led to the multitude of corn byproducts that are sweetening everything, especially soda. And we know that that is one of the key correlations between the obesity epidemic and the use of soda. I have definitely had patients tell me that they're drinking up to 5 liters of soda a day. And so we also know that these sugars have an addictive quality. So good job. I'm fine with you having a soda with a slice of pizza, but it definitely is not something that I recommend on a regular basis.
Okay. Another question is, do you see private patients?
I do see private patients, but at this point, our College of Nursing is super. I'm in clinic 2 days a week and I teach 3 days a week, and I'm on faculty practice, so I'm working with a clinic, United Community Health Center in Green Valley.
Okay. I eat a lot of fruit, but all by themselves. I don't eat them with other food. Is this the best way to go?
Well, back in the 90s, they used to think that you had to eat foods in a certain order in order to get the most nutritional benefit. That's a harder question to answer in terms of if you have diabetes, then the amount and types of fruit that you're eating might be different from somebody who's not. I am a big fan of my plate because it keeps it simple and it keeps it true, that well-balanced plate. So a quarter of your diet can be fruits, and we're always hoping that those are fresh fruits more than canned, definitely not in syrup. And I'm not too worried about your eating them separately unless you have some kind of blood sugar issues.
Okay, we'll take one more question. Is it okay to take probiotics every day, and what's the limit?
Sure. So one of the handouts we're giving you is how to find a good probiotic supplement. It is not just okay, it's good to get those probiotics every day in your diet. Very much like other nutrients, they get depleted. So eating them on a daily basis or taking a supplement every day is fine. And in terms of a supplement, I always say keep it simple. Don't spend $50. You don't have to get the one that's super refrigerated. They're not seeing that there's a benefit to any specific supplement over another. And use it whatever's on the bottle. And then again, go back to the handouts and the references. If you have specific conditions you're trying to address, then see which of those probiotic supplements would be best for you.
Great. Well, thank you, Dr. Kiser, so much for today. We invite you all to join us again next Wednesday as we're going to continue our discussion on keeping our immune system healthy. Until then, take care, be safe, and stay well. Thank you all.